Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on The Father Show. And I'm your host, Mike Thompson. Today, we have another great show for you. But before we get to that, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the show. If you have not already, please hit that subscription button, and hit that notification bell while you're there, so that way you can always be notified whenever we have a new show, which is generally weekly. So don't forget, hit it. Now, for those of you men that are looking for resources, I want you to go to thefathershowwithmikethompson.com. There you will find resources to help you be the best version of yourself, and that's what we're looking to do. Every show that we do is really trying to get you to that point. Even today's show, we want you to be the best version for you, for your family, for your kids, if you have any, and also mainly just for you, because you're going to benefit from it, being the best man that you can be. Okay, so we want to get you good and ready and get you started on that. But before we get to that, today we have a young man coming on the show, and I'm really excited about it because this man has done a lot, and we're going to be talking about how to get started in real estate investment. Something I know a lot of us know that really, if you want to really make some money in life, real estate investment is the key. Now, my mentor owns so many places, it's not even believable. He's always been into real estate. He was the person that guided me into buying my first house. So I am really excited to be able to get you that knowledge, and that so that you can figure out if investing in real estate is something that you want to do. And if you do, we want to make sure you have the right information and the right people to contact. And I think today our guest, who is Mark Hayes, and he is the CEO of Bridge South Investment, and that's based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Now, Mark has always had an entrepreneur spirit, starting his first business in the 6th grade, selling blow pops on the school bus. You gotta love it. And although he wanted to start his own business, he was eligible to sit for the professional engineer exam and passed the test on the first attempt. Now, this one I like, because I know when I looked at being a financial planner, I know how hard this next test is. But he then had a short stint as a professional financial advisor, and he obtained his Series 6 license and other certifications before beginning his real estate investment business in 2002. Now, in 2005, Mr. Hayes went full-time into real estate investing, and for 15 years, Mark concentrated on purchasing and managing rental properties, as well as flipping homes and building spec homes to sell. Over his career, he's built or renovated over 100 and managed up to 40 rental units in-house. Now, in 2019, Bridge South Investment funded $1.4 million in loans. Now, in 2020, that wasn't good enough. Mr. Hayes propelled BSI to a 116% increase during a difficult year of the coronavirus, funding, get this, $3.1 million in loans. And in 2021, he even set a record for himself, totaling $4.3 million in loan volume. And Bridge South Investment, LLC, is a licensed lender in the state of Tennessee. So now that my mouth is dry from reading part of this man's bio, because it's a lot longer than that, and I hope he can tell a little bit more about it. But without further ado, I really want you guys to welcome Mark Hayes to the show. Mark, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks, Mike. And
Man,
thanks for
I'm
having me.
winded.
I'm excited to talk with you today.
Well, good, good. You just made me winded. I mean, that's you have done a lot and you've been very successful. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge to the audience because I know real estate investment, especially now that we're in 2022 and what they're saying about the real estate market. You hear different things.
hmm
One saying the bubble's gonna bust. The other saying it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna be great, but it's gonna be all right. But so I want to really kind of get your expertise and find out what you think in this. But before we get to that, what made you get into real estate?
Yeah. So, you know, I went to Vanderbilt University, and again, I wasn't smart or rich. I still don't know how I got into that school, but I studied engineering because I was good at math. So I went
Mm-hmm.
into civil engineering and did that for a few years. You talked about that. Then I did some financial planning, but I was really wanting to just be in business for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Asheville, my hometown, Asheville, North Carolina, about 20 years ago over the holiday. And I went to visit my good friend. His name is Zach Young, and he was out of school. He didn't really wasn't really working like a full time job, but he had bought a couple properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I go and visit with him on my way out of town. I said, "How do you do this? How did you do this?" And we sat down. He wrote down some numbers, on a little legal pad that kind of made sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had a lot of questions. So he let me borrow a course that he had bought about real estate investing. And back then, early 2000s, it was cassette tapes. So I popped that into my cassette player in the car on the way back to Nashville. And from there, I was hooked. I wanted to just learn as much as I could about real estate investing. And so from there, I I got to meet some other people in the Nashville area that were doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and just slowly started to figure things out, mainly through education and networking.
Okay. So was it the thrill of buying homes and flipping homes and selling homes that really excited you?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked. Well, one, it was a good wealth building tool, but there were so many different types of real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's rental properties that are more for long term for retirement, but then there's also other ways to make money now, or when you're working as an active investor. So just um, that there are different aspects of
Yeah.
it really intrigued me. But and again, also just um, rehabbing homes with there's a construction component to it, and doing engineering. I had some experience doing consulting with construction, and so um, that also was something that was really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy. A lot of
No.
people see HGTV, they see these shows, and it shows how these people make all this money. They don't really factor in all the holding costs and closing costs and overages and staying up at night stressed about if a house is going to get finished on time or dealing with contractors. So it's definitely not easy, but it's exciting. It's different, uh, you know, and I mean, I've got all kinds of entertaining stories to tell about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's um, it's a great it's a great business to be in for all those reasons.
Yeah. So you found your niche and you're happy, and that's the most important part. You know. Now, how
Sure.
many or what are the different types of real estate investments?
Yeah, I mean, so really the two sectors are divided into residential and commercial when it comes in to investing, and then within those two there's several different facets. So with residential, like I said, you've got just buying rental properties, which would just be, single family homes or homes you fix up
Mm-hmm.
and rent out, duplexes, maybe some small multifamily. When you get in over 4 units, it's considered commercial. That's a multifamily on the commercial side.
Mm-hmm.
But even within residential, there's a lot of different strategies as well. And so there's lease options, there's buying property with creative financing,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, and there's a lot to learn that way in those areas. And then, flipping homes and building and just doing development, building new homes, like I did for the last several years. And then as far as commercial, again, there's investing in industrial or commercial land. There's office, retail, and there's all
Mm-hmm.
those different types of commercial. Um, Typically, when you first get started in real estate, most people get into residential because it's an easier way to enter into the space.
Yeah. And that is for residential. Like I know what I mentioned earlier, my mentor was very heavy into real estate, and he would
Yeah.
always recommend buying a duplex. Now, he didn't recommend that for me. He made me buy a house because I really, at that time, I didn't want to buy a house. I was only 28 and I was looking at buying maybe a condo or something like that. But he was like, nope. And he just sent the realtor over and said, Mike, he said, you're going to buy a house. I said, no, I don't want a house. No, you're buying a house. So I'm like, okay, guess I'm buying a house. But I know with some of his kids, he recommended doing duplexes. You live in one part of it and you rent out the other. And I have some friends, even here in New Orleans that are doing the same thing. And
Right.
I've recommended.
Yeah, actually, my very first property was a duplex,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for that very reason. I was single. I had good credit at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I had been through where I'd paid off a lot of consumer debt, and so my credit score had gotten good. I'd worked at the engineering job, so I got a FHA loan for a duplex because I was living in it as an owner occupant.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I wanted to live in the larger side. It was the 2 bedroom, 1 bath side and not the 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And my mentor, he said, no, you don't do that. You live in the small side, you get more rent for the larger unit.
Yeah.
And I basically lived free. After the mortgage, my utilities and everything, the rent that the tenant was paying covered it. So
Yeah.
it was great. It's a great way to enter into the space. And I still own that property today,
Oh, do you? Okay.
20 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you don't want to get rid of it. And so the duplex is a good starting point, would you say?
That is one good starting point. Yeah.
Okay.
And another easy way to enter into the space is if you already own a home, if you go to buy another home to live in, don't sell that property you're currently living in. Rent
Mm-hmm.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of people do, because most people move every 3 to 5 years. What a lot of people do is they move up in house.
Yeah.
So they're in one area and they're saying, oh, well, now I want to be in a better neighborhood or more expensive. I want to buy a bigger home. And so you just take that equity from the first home and put that down as a down payment into
Mm-hmm.
your second home.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, a great strategy is you keep the first home. If you have equity, you can get a line of credit if needed for your down payment for your second home.
Mm-hmm.
And if the numbers still work, rent out that home you were living in, and you'll be surprised in 10 years will just fly by, and then your mortgage payment will be here, and then the value of that home you're renting out will be here, and you'll have even more equity. And it's a great wealth building strategy. And the other great thing about that is if you live in the home for 2 of the past 5 years, when you do sell, you don't have to pay any capital gains tax.
Mm.
So, let me preface: I'm not a CPA or an accountant or attorney or anything, but um, so you could technically rent out that home once you move and for under 3 years, and then sell it. And there's some tax benefits to that. Then you can go buying more rental properties
Hmm.
or invest it in something else. Or
But let me ask you, would the bank, okay, you have your first house and now you want to keep it, but you want to buy the second house and you're going to use the equity in the first house to do so. Does the bank look at you and say, wait a minute, financially, can you afford it? So if you are not able to rent it out or your renter leaves, can you still cover the mortgage?
yeah, I mean, that might be a factor with the lender. You know, but there's what I typically uh, you can always refinance the home that you're renting out with
Hmm.
like a small local bank or a credit union, and those banks um, don't have as many hoops to jump through or restrictions,
Okay.
and so their their underwriting is typically done in house, and just seems to be easier to deal with than if you have some there's just less hurdles and things to jump through with them versus maybe some of the larger mortgage companies or banks.
Okay. So you want to look for a small bank that will, give you the funding for it.
Yeah, and so there's um, yeah, the smaller community banks that are usually local or
Hmm.
maybe just regional.
Okay. Now, what is it a good idea to be familiar with that bank, or they be familiar with you as well?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, in business, everything is about building relationships. So that's when I was doing a lot of rehabbing and building new homes. I would go to 3 or 4 different banks, and I had good relationships with those bankers. And the more that you do with them, and the more that you get to know them, and they get to know you, it makes the transactions in the future a lot easier, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And you asked or answered one of the questions that I had, which was, should you have a strategy once you're getting started into, buying into real estate investment?
Yeah, and so that's the thing, and about investing, like we were talking about, all the different facets and strategies. So I'm actually in the process of writing a book right now, and I haven't finalized the title of it, but it's going to
Mhm.
be something like how to dip your toe into real estate investing. So very
Okay.
similar subject that we're talking about right now, and I've signed with Indigo River Publishing.
Hmm.
So I hope to finish the book in this year. I definitely want to get it. Uh, I need to carve out some time on top of my other business and everything I'm doing each week
Yeah.
to write it. But I've already got the content and the outline. I
Hmm.
just need to devote the time to do it. But the reason for me writing the book is I've had a lot of people come to me over the years, friends or um, friends of friends or people that just seek me out online to say, hey, I see you're successful in real estate. How do I get started, or what do I need to
Mm-hmm.
do? And it can be overwhelming. And because when I got started, I would go to a meeting or a seminar or listen to a course, and it would be, you know, this is how you do rental properties, and this is how you flip homes, and there's all these different aspects. And I would even have people tell me in the beginning, they're like, "Oh, don't buy rentals. You don't want to deal with tenants and
Mm-hmm.
clogged up toilets and those calls in the middle of the night,
Mm-hmm.
and property managers, none of them are any good." And well, so that kind of steered me away from rentals in the beginning. But then once I kind of learned all these different things, I kind of took a little bit from each course or thing I learned and made my own business. So I started doing the rentals and flipping.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the but to get so that's why I want to write this book, is to really talk about, if you're not necessarily wanting to be like a full-time active real estate investor. You have a job right now. You're not planning to leave it. You might have some retirement, in your 401k or a
Mm-hmm.
IRA or something like that. But you do want to just know more about real estate investing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm writing this book. And so, different strategies like we're talking about today, um, on how to just buy your first property, is going to be in that book.
Okay.
You know, and the thing I like about real estate investing also is you have control. As
Can,
men, we like controlling things. When you go out with your wife and your family out to dinner, who drives the car?
mm-hmm. Yeah, the husband,
The husband, the
generally.
father. 99% of the time it seems like, we want to take the wheel, we want to control it. Well, when you invest in stocks and mutual funds and other things, you're giving that money up to other people to
Mm-hmm.
manage,
Mm-hmm.
and which is fine. Like I said, I have money in the stock market, but I have most of my investments in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So you can choose where you want to buy that property, you know, and you can choose how you want to renovate that home. You can choose how, you know, do you want to do more affordable housing and rent, on a lower rent,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want to rent more of a higher end in a higher end area? So there's all these different types of ways that you can make decisions, but you do have to educate yourself for sure.
Yeah, because you mentioned, when you said, when you looked at investment and people talking about investment or having rental property, they don't want to deal with collecting rent. And like you mentioned, phone calls in the middle of the night, my toilet is stopped up, and things of that nature, because that's what kept me. I didn't want to be a landlord at all because I didn't want to deal with that. I watched my mentor go through it, and it was just like, no, I'm too busy for that. I have other things I'm interested in. I don't want to go
Right.
that route. But I still would always wanted to invest in real estate. And so one of the questions I had was really the real estate investment trust, the REIT.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that is viable? And I know it is. I mean, people do it, but can you do it on a small scale, just starting out, if you don't want to be in the landlord business?
Well, let me tell you, Mike, one of the best business decisions I made was when I moved my rental properties that I was managing myself to a property manager.
Mm-hmm.
uh, what forced my decision was I had an office manager and bookkeeper who had worked for me for a few years, and she was doing a lot of the property management, and we had a maintenance person who was doing a lot of things. And she was ready to move on and do bookkeeping full time.
Mm-hmm.
So it forced my hand. It said I had to decide, do I hire another person like her, or do I move my properties to a rental management company? Well, like I was saying before, in the early 2000s, as a whole, a lot of people had bad experiences with property managers. And I think it was because a lot of real estate agents in the residential world would say, yeah, I'll manage your property for you, but they weren't necessarily professional or didn't have certain businesses in place. They were selling real estate as their main thing, but they would say, yes, I'll manage your property. So people had a lot of bad experiences. Nowadays, they're with technology being what it is, there's professional property managers that are a lot more organized and reliable that you can use at a very fair rate. So I've moved my rentals to a property manager. I get my direct deposit on the 10th of the month, because rents are collected on the 1st through the
Mm-hmm.
5th. On the 10th of the month, I get owner statements through a portal, so I can log in and look at um, financials. I can look at maintenance reports, and then I just get occasional emails if there's a major repair that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something like fix a faucet or something minor, I don't hear about it. So it's great.
Yeah, and I know that's what my mentor did as well. He got a property management, and they manage, business. Because for him, it was virtually impossible, because he had not just his, he didn't have houses, he had duplexes, he had apartments, he had office buildings, and blah blah blah.
Oh wow.
So it was impossible for him to be able to manage it all. So I can see that, and I think that's a great idea. But let me ask you, what are some questions a person should ask themselves before starting it to invest?
Yeah, let me give it. I didn't really answer your question before about the REITs.
Okay.
So, um, if you want to just, there's a lot of other ways you can participate in real estate investing as well financially.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, um, there are active investors who look for financial partners. I was talking to an investor this morning, and she does kind of co-housing to make things, for affordable housing, and um, in a city that's very expensive. And so she'll get a financial partner for the down payment to purchase the property, and then she gets a loan. So it's a joint venture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to participate. You can invest in REITs, which is basically like a stock or a
Mm-hmm.
fund, that's holding real estate. And today, like again, with the way things are with technology, uh, I'm sure you've heard of crowdfunding.
Yeah.
There's there's actually for large commercial projects, there's crowdfunding that's being done. So
Really?
um, yeah,
To raise
it's
the money to buy the property?
yes. Now
Yeah.
most of them you need to be an accredited investor.
Mm-hmm.
So accredited investor is a net worth of at least 1 million or more, and or an income of 250,000 per year,
Mm-hmm.
or a year. So, but yeah, there's a development in downtown Nashville that they just did through a crowdfunding site. It's a real estate investing crowdfunding site, and it was I think it's like a $7.7 million project.
Hmm.
So that's another reason or another way to invest. So what what was your question that like what
Well,
questions people have?
well, the question I was thinking of is this a question should people what question should people ask themselves before getting into real estate investments?
Gotcha. What questions they should ask themselves?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
what's their pain, flesh, what's what how much can they handle, how much do they want to do, or what should they be asking themselves before they really start diving into investment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just um, asking, do I have, can I set aside some time to um, educate myself more about investing? Because you do need to, you know, read some books, attend some networking meetings, and uh, listen to some courses or a seminar. There's all kinds of different podcasts and things online to read. So, you know, um, I wouldn't say real estate's investing a thing where you just kind of throw money at it
Just
and
jump in
expect
head first.
a great result. Because,
Yeah.
like I said before, you there is some control, which means there's decisions to make, and to make good decisions, you need to be educated. So, I mean, with the stock with 401k, you can rely on a financial planner that has the expertise and background on that to to help you and assist you with certain stocks and that sort of thing. Whereas with real estate, it's really about education and networking,
Okay.
um, and you can rely on experts um, when if you're as far as like looking for property. Um, I wouldn't just pick any real estate agent to help if you're going to go
Mm-hmm.
that route.
Yeah.
Most real estate agents are in the retail world, and a lot of people just have their license part time. So you don't want to pick your real estate agent because it's your aunt or uncle or just a friend. You want to find out who are the real estate agents that are investor real estate agents,
Okay.
ones that are actually investing themselves or represent other investors
Mm-hmm.
and have that mindset and knowledge. Another thing that's an easy way to network and get a lot of questions answered is social media. You know, on Facebook, there's a lot of real estate investing groups that you can join. So, I'm members of groups for cities that I like to invest in.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a forum where people get on and ask questions, and you can read their comments, and you can get referrals of those real estate agents, contractors, and all the such.
Okay. And I would think that, to start investing in real estate, you always hear about people saying that you can invest with no money down. Is that true in your
It is
estimations?
true.
Okay.
It is true. It might sound like, oh, that's too good to be true, but it's mainly, I would say, you don't have to use your own money, um, but you could bring in a partner.
Mm-hmm.
So so someone that has the financial backing, and then you're doing more of the active investing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way where technically no money down. you're using someone else's money with no money down as far as purchasing properties. That goes back to what I was saying before. There's some different creative ways um, when it comes to investing. So there's like owner financing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You could buy a property that's with someone that doesn't have a mortgage, and maybe they're older and they're not necessarily wanting a one lump sum when they sell the property. If they would, but they don't want to maintain or manage the property anymore. So if they sell it, instead of getting a lump sum, they create a note. So you start paying them monthly. You become the owner of the property, but then you pay them monthly uh, instead of getting a loan from a bank or a hard money lender like myself or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that a similar to a well, not a rent to own, or but
Yeah, that
similar
is
to
similar.
that?
It's just,
Okay.
yeah, so that would be like a lease option.
Yeah.
So you could do a lease option where you're leasing the property. They're still owners. They still responsible for paying the taxes and
Mm-hmm.
insurance. And you're leasing it with the intention of buying it in the future.
Now,
So
can you do something like that and call it a reverse mortgage, or is I know that's even scrutinized a little bit by the government, but is that similar to a reverse mortgage?
no, reverse mortgage is, um, and again, I don't agree with reverse mortgages honestly because um, it's when someone, typically an elderly person, might
Mm-hmm.
own the property free and clear and be on a fixed income. So they're basically taking out a loan
On their own
per se
house.
back on the property to and getting paid monthly to help supplement their fixed income.
Yeah.
And so that it's different. I don't think that's a good idea for anyone though,
Yeah.
uh, in that situation.
Okay. Now I know we're getting crunchy, a little crunch on time, but I really do. You think your book is going to be out in 2022 or maybe in 23?
Yes,
Okay.
2022 is the goal for sure.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this is going to be a book that's going to be really good for people that are wanting to get started, like you mentioned, want to dip their toe in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's gonna um, have some, different stories about experiences that I've had, you know, that where I learned a good lesson or something that just might be entertaining. Because there's been a lot of interesting things that have happened over my real estate career when dealing
Yeah.
with tenants and contractors and just everyone that you encounter in that space.
No, I can imagine. Especially when like you mentioned earlier, you're building a home and you want to make that deadline and you got to do this and you got to do that and all those different avenues that you have to deal with to get a complete project is I know it's got to be hard.
Oh yeah, it can be stressful, but um, again, it's not for the faint of heart when you get into development and flipping homes. But there is a big, it can be profitable,
Mm.
but again, it's not easy. It's not glamorous, uh, and so otherwise everybody'd be doing it.
Not right. Now, what would you tell a man that or husband that he would like to get into real estate investment, but his wife is maybe not quite on board? Is there something he can, show her, teach her, or as maybe learn together what they're about to do?
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, my wife, she's my partner on all my real estate. We have 4 kids, but she's at home, taking care of them, and not necessarily as involved, but I definitely keep her up to date,
Hmm.
and definitely ask for her feedback and opinion on things sometimes, and she offers a great perspective. Um, and so, yeah, you know, as a husband, it's really important to involve your wife, because you two are yoked together, and so financially, you're need to make big decisions together.
Yeah.
So I would just say, um, you know, try to get on the same page, just again by education, because the more you know, the more you're comfortable with. Um, you know, most of the time, the reason why someone might not be as excited about something like real estate investing is just because they might have a little fear.
Hmm.
And the fear comes from not knowing enough about it. So, so um, that in that case, the husband could share with them an article or two that they really liked, that kind of hit their nerve,
Hmm.
that got them excited. Share that article. Maybe um, if they have another friend that's bought a property, they could go by and um, take a look at it, or maybe they can just, also just look at some properties together.
Hmm. Yeah, get her excited about it in
That's right.
different ways. Yeah. Well, Mark, unfortunately, that is our time. But
Wow, it
before
went by
we,
fast.
yeah, it does. But before we get out of here, how can people get in touch with you? Because if they're really interested in getting involved in investment, or maybe they already are and they want to step up their game a little bit, and they're working in the different cities that you work in, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the best way is my website, and that's bridgesouthinvestments.com. My email is mark@bridgesouthinvestments.com. And just in the subject line, you know, put in there that you heard my podcast, and that way we can reach out, and I'll follow up with you for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's great because I really would like the men that are really interested in getting involved in real estate and whichever avenue that you try to use, uh, know exactly what they're doing because, as you mentioned, education is the key so that you're going to get suckered into something that's going to cost you all your money, or make your wife very pissed off at you. So we really want them to be able to know where to get that information and how they can get it. So I hope that we have a lot of our listeners giving you a call. Now, you work out of different cities or states. Which are the states that you work in?
Well, so as far as lending, like I said, I do bridge loans and hard money loans, which are short-term loans to be able to purchase properties.
Hmm.
And they are higher interest than the banks, but they're easier. We fund them quickly, and again, I know that side of things, so I can kind of help and assist with with the transaction, and with the process if you have questions along the way.
Okay.
So work in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and then North and South Carolina is where we lend
Okay.
at this moment.
Okay.
But like I said, I really just I love talking real estate investing, and it's kind of a passion of mine. Just to so if anybody ever just has a question, and you're you can reach out to me, and I can maybe lead you in the right direction, or just connect you with someone.
Okay, that's great. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on the show. And I really, when you get your book published and you're ready to launch it, please let me know. I'd love to have you back on the show. Launch your book. We can talk about it and get the audience a little bit more information about what's inside the cover.
Great, sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. And like Mark said, the time just flew by. I really wanted to get more information from him, and I'm sure we could have kept going for a couple of hours, but unfortunately, that's not the case today. But we look forward to having him back, especially when he get his book out. And we can take a look at the book and he can tell you all about it. And if you don't want to wait for the book, and you want to go ahead and dip your toe in the water, please give Mark a call and talk with him. Like I said, he loves to talk about real estate, so I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you and point you in the right direction as to where you can go to get more information. But if you have not already subscribed to the show, please subscribe to the show and on our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell, and that way you'll be notified every time we have a show out, which is generally once a week. But once again, if you are a man that is in need of resources that can help you be the best version of yourself, whether that's an attorney, a counselor, therapist, whatever, go to the Father Show with Mike Thompson.com and click on resources, and there you can find resources that help you and to get the information that you need and get the help that you may need. So until next week, I want to thank you all for joining us, and tell somebody else while you're at it. Don't let them not get the information that they need or may want. And I think if they even looking for real estate, they know how to get a hold of Mark and they can get in touch with him. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, God bless you all. And I hope you're having a great start to the new year. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. God bless you.